feeling. Well, what causes how they think and feel? What causes what they think and feel is a belief system, a set of truths that they learned. If you can go back to when you were age 11, what year were you age 11? Take that year and look at the world, and what you're going to find out is your people are like the world was when they were age 11. And that, for the most part, does not change the rest of your life. If you take, now I was age 11 in the 1940s. If you go back to my high school reunion, my high school annual, you will find almost every boy had his hair cut. How? Crew cut. Why was it a crew cut? Because our hero was G.I. Joe. We were very militarily oriented, and they were the people we held up high. Let's go to 1969. We're in the middle of the Vietnam conflict. My hero now becomes Joe Namath. Joe Namath did whatever he pleased. He grew his hair any way he wanted. And our football kids, I was coaching football, and how was the hair on my football kids? My football kids' hair was hanging clear down over their shoulders. What was my truth about that? Well, we took them in the shower room, put their helmet on, cut their hair off the base of the helmet. You think you'd get by with that today? No, I don't think so. You'd be in court. Why? Because we have different belief systems. But you see, if you are 52, or if you are 47, or if you are 40, and you're hiring a 22-year-old, that dude doesn't think like you do. And rather than firing them or getting all over them, what you need to do is ask some really good questions to find out what is in these boxes. Because at the very base of the iceberg, and you're going to hear more about this in just a moment, there are your instinctive needs. You'll see more about that in just a little bit. These are genetically dictated. And you see, what happens down here is what comes natural to me. That's what's natural. Some of you need to be in control. You will push and shove until you are in control, and you'll tell people what you think even when they haven't asked. The other people won't say anything. There are some people who have to be absolutely correct, and some people fly by the seat of their pants. That's a natural genetic quality. But you see, what happens then as we grow older, we create this area here, which is a filter through which this natural behavior flows to how I think and feel, and it emerges as a behavior. That's why some people, when they get upset with you on the road, flip you off. Because this system here has not taught them something about a value system that says that's inappropriate. The same thing is true with language. The same thing is true with cleaning up. The same thing is true with every other aspect of how we function. But you need to understand that what's natural there is what's adaptive up here. This is what we call adaptive behavior. And I learned that by learning the norms of a culture or the norms of a business like you're in. So if we go on then to number two is on your sheet. Number 2 says 80% of your success this year is going to depend on about half a dozen things. As you begin 2008, what I'd like to have you sit down and do, whether it's in management or whether it's in accounting or whether it is in the operation, the process out in the barns, I'd like to have you write down the top 5 to 7 things that will dictate your success this year, because you won't come out with a list any longer than that. Whether it's the end user that uses your product, that prepares that pork in a fine restaurant, or whether or not it's in the fairway to finish barns, or whether it's in the profit that you try to generate to stay liquid, it's about half a dozen things are going to account for the success. 80% of your success this year, according to Jim Rohn. Now I want you to look at this. What are you focusing on? I want you to look at this picture fairly carefully. Now what you may not be seeing is this thing right here. What's that thing? That's ball. It's baseball. Now I want you to look at this picture. Whoops, that picture. See the ball over here? Now there's something different between this picture and that picture. What is it? The eyes. Look at the eyes. Where's he looking? He's looking down here. He's looking where he's going to hit the ball. But when I look at where I'm going to hit the ball, what happens is I don't hit the ball. There's no way that if you don't put information in here, that it will come out here. And my question to you is, where's your business eye? What are the half dozen things you're focusing on? Because if you're focusing on the wrong half dozen things, success level is going to elude you. In this individual here, I think we're going to have contact at that. This year, into your operation, you need to be able to focus. So if we look at the next picture, you'll find the same thing is true. This young lady is absolutely going to bring that ball back, because if you watch her eyes, and she's absolutely right on the ball, she's starting on her backhand, it's going to be a perfect contact. Now if we translate that into people, I want you to think about the same principle used here. There's two principles here. First of all, that guy here is very, very focused on this guy here. But the beautiful part about that is when your people know that you are focused on them, what's this little guy demonstrating? Huge levels of trust. If you have no trust, you don't have anything except a hug operation. Number 3, very quickly, your life always travels in the direction of that upon which you dwell. What does that mean? It means if you take this word dwell out and you put in the word think, you got to know what your people are thinking. Because if they are not thinking that this is their operation, you don't have any commitment. If you've ever heard Bernie Irwin speak, Bernie Irwin talks about me to we. If your people are going downtown to a local pub and chewing you up and spitting out the pieces, the energy is scattered all over your operation. But if they're going in saying, you know, we have got an 8,000 herd or sow herd, or my job is to deal with this aspect of our nutritional program, when they begin to absorb that concept, you see your life always travels in the direction upon which you think, and if they think your operation sucks, what's going to happen is their energy is scattered, and you're not going to get it out of them, and you're going to be below what you could possibly produce. Number 4, people do what they know how to do. What do creative people know how to do? Innovate. Be creative. What do angry people know how to do? Be angry. They be angry and they alienate themselves from the other teammates that you have. Positive people know how to be positive. Negative people know how to be negative. People know what they... And you see, the thing that you can do is get angry with them. You can penalize them. You can fire them. You can cut their wage. You can do all kinds of things. The point is, until you change their strategies, they will not change their behavior. Oh, they may do it for the few minutes you're in their area. But then they go back to doing... They have to learn a new way to think. And what you do is you ask questions to find out why do they think the way they think. Your whole operation is on 2 emotions. There are only 2 emotions in your operation. On one end, you have fear. It's like a continuum. It's like from this hand to this hand, and every one of your people is somewhere along here. If fear is on the other end, we've got trust or love on the other end. What you need to find out is, where are your people? Do they come to work because they're afraid not to? They say, oh man, it's Monday, I don't want to go to work, I have to go to work. If you listen to people who are afraid, what they say is, I have to do thus and so. You don't have to do anything. Say, I have to pay taxes. You don't have to pay taxes. Don't pay them. They say, well, then I go to jail. They said, yeah, that's the way the system works. But you don't have to go to work. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to accept responsibility. You do what you do because you have selected to do it and you enjoy doing it and you trust the process in which you're involved. Number 6, it's your resistance to what is that causes your suffering. I don't happen to be a Buddhist, but it does happen to be an awfully good lesson. Things are as they are. Some things I can control, some things I can't. Some of us in this room spend a lot of time trying to control things they cannot control. And that's the point of this, is that when I try to control things I cannot control, what happens is I get stressed. And when I get stressed, I get worn out, and I'm not as good as I need to be. Here are the 4 motivators at the bottom of your sheet. There are only 4 things that cause people to do what they do. Number 1 is control. And how you interact effectively with this people is, these are the get-her-done type people. You'll hear them even verbalize that phrase, let's go out and get her done. The second, by the way, this group of people control people and situations. These are the people that are task-oriented and result-oriented. These are the people that will probably get started on a project before they've read the directions. That's not necessarily a male thing, by the way. And you ladies think it is. But number 2, approval. These are the people that are visual thinkers. Visual in how they view life. Bear in mind when you interact with these people, these are the words you need to identify to communicate with them. If you got a get-her-done type guy, what you're going to say is, Fred, how would you do this? Don't ask him how he thinks, because he doesn't. He thinks, but he doesn't ponder. He thinks about how I would do it. Number 3, these are stable people. This is the backbone of the workforce worldwide. They're dependable, they're relational, they don't like change, and they hate conflict. They show up every day for 27 years and do the same job, and they're perfectly content. In fact, you introduce change, and what you'll find is they will resist it and dig their heels in. With these people, you say, Jane, what do you feel about this? And they will like communicating with you. They don't even know why. But you know why, because you know who they are, you know what motivates them, and you know what words to use to interact with them. And they'll be very open and trusting with you. Number 4, these are the accountants. These are the bean counters. These are the people who collect coupons. It has to be correct. And when you talk to these people, you say, Andy, what do you think about this? And Andy will not give you an answer right away. Andy's going to think about it a while. And you may have to have a part of a day to think about it. You say, because I know Andy, I'll say, Andy, we got this situation. What do you think about it? I know you're going to want to ponder it a bit. Would you come into my office tomorrow morning and give me what you thought about? He'll come in with pages of information because he's pondered it the whole time. This person up here will give you a shot of an answer right off the top of their head. It may make no application whatsoever at all. And so you have to know your people really well. My question to you is this. That's the 7 basic principles of behavior. Now here are the 2 questions. And I'm going to have you ponder this back to me a bit and give me some responses. First question is, what is it why do people work? What is it they're after? What are the rewards that they seek? What would these? Give me some verbal responses. Why is it people work? Self-gratification. What's the most common answer in our culture? They money. They want money. And we never pay them enough, of course. If we paid them more, they'd be happy for about this long, and then they'd want more. Because what have they done with what they made? They spent it. What else? Why else do we work? What are we after? It might be benefits. Absolutely benefits. They're pretty expensive these days, and a whole lot of folks don't have them. So I may take a job just to get health benefits. Another reason. Keeps you happy? Keeps her happy. Aha! Thank you for that. I'm glad I clarified that. Now we have 4 or 5 answers. Let's go down one more step and say, well, what are the benefits we gain from the reward obtained? What is the benefit from keeping her happy? Yeah. What's the benefit of making money? Spend it. Yeah. It's called lifestyle. If I make enough, my lifestyle gets better, and it gets better, and it gets better. Although that certainly is in question the last few days as we watch the global marketplace. And as people do it to other people through subprime mortgages. And they put big balloon payments on when they don't charge interest on early on. Creates problems for people. But what's the benefit of the lifestyle I want? Sense of self-worth, the benefit of sense of self-worth. Pressing you one more step. Money, lifestyle, sense of self-worth. The answer is really easy. Give me the same answer you gave me a little bit ago. Pardon? Our children. What's the benefit of having your children? Happy. Happier home. You mean you feel good? You see, you can take any one of these. Let's take benefits. What's the benefit of having benefits? Paid days off. What's the benefit of having paid days off? You get to relax. What's the benefit of relaxing? Yeah, I feel good. Why are drugs and alcohol a real significant problem in the United States? They make me feel good for a period of time. And you see what's happening is that a great percentage of our workforce is not contented and happy in what they're doing, and so they seek it somewhere else. I guess my belief is that why people work is for positive emotion. Now, you can call it contentedness, you can call it self-esteem, you can call it happiness, you can call it joy, you can call it whatever you want to call it. I call it positive emotion, but if you'll look on the bottom of your sheet, you got 4 blanks. I think there's also freedom, and I think there's also responsibility, and I think there's also control. Now, here's the question that we have to answer in this process. If this is what we're after, if positive emotion is what we're after, how in the world can I assure my people of getting there? If you put those 4 answers in those blanks, what you're going to find is we've got to find a way to get through these 3 here to get down to this one here, down to positive emotion. How do you get there? Well, I use the Vietnam situation to illustrate this point. Some of our people ended up in a prisoner of war camp for somewhere between 6 and 7.5 years. Jerry Coffey, George Hall, and a whole multitude of others. And one of the things that they were asked when they came out is, how did you survive and maintain any level of positive emotion? And I'll very quickly tell you, it was the worst situation they'd ever been in their life, and we hope that no one else ever ends up in that kind of a situation. But as we watched those 2 guys, one of them came out after 7.5 years in a 4-by-8 foot box. And in 2 weeks went out and played in a Pro-Am golf tournament and played right on to their handicap of 76. And the press came and approached him and said, how do you explain your beginner's reentry luck? He said, beginner's reentry luck? He said, I never 2-putted a green in all of my 7.5 years. You see, in the Hanoi Hilton, they had golf courses. Where were they? In the minds of the prisoners of war. And you see in your mind, you never miss. And so how did George Hull handle these 3 items here in an order so that this was always an outcome? If you remember Schindler's List, remember Schindler's List, the World War II death camp film? And the kids, the day they were going to liquidate the death camp, where did the kids find a place to hide? In the, I'm missing that. Well, you're putting it very nicely. They put them in the shit house. Yeah, in the outhouses. And you see, if you're going to hide in an outhouse, where do you hide? Not above the ring. They find you there. You hide below the ring. But you say below the ring, it's filled with human excrement. Exactly. But you see, the kids, in a quotes, were glad to be there because it provided them survival. And they were neck deep in human excrement. Now, I know that work sometimes seems that way. But you see, if you accept responsibility for your state in life, what it allows you to do is to be in control. In control of what? In control of you. Well, if I'm going to be in control of me, who's going to be in control of you? Yeah, your wife. That's not always a positive situation either, because sometimes what we get is resentful from that kind of a situation. You see, if each one of us is in control of ourselves, we're screaming for more law enforcement. We're screaming for more control. We don't need more control if we have people who are willing to accept responsibility for their own behavior. Because when I'm responsible for my own behavior, what happens then is I'm in control. In control of what? In control of me. When I'm in control of me, what happens? I am now free. You see, sometimes we translate this into extrinsic freedom and extrinsic control. It's not talking about extrinsic control. That is control of things outside me. It's talking about intrinsic control, internal control. But you see, we live in a society that wants to control everything outside them when they're not in control of the things that are needing control inside. So if we were to put this on your diagram, we put some arrows in here, Responsibility has to be number one. When people accept responsibility, whether they're workers, whether they're bosses, whether they're kids, whether they're spouses, whether they're teachers, whatever they are, if they're responsible for their own behavior, they're in control of their own lives. And we need to teach responsibility. We haven't done that well in our culture. Because it's everybody else's fault. Can't possibly be mine. When you and a worker do not hit it off well, the very first question I want you to ask is not, what the heck is wrong with that dude? Look in the mirror when you get up in the morning and say, what strategy am I lacking that's preventing me from interacting with my employees? And when you obtain that strategy, what happens is you begin to interact with them much more effectively, and almost always, 95% of the time, it'll be that you're failing to ask the right question in the right way. You see, because then when I'm in control, I am now internally free. Those people in Vietnam, those soldiers and prisoners of war were free in their own mind. The movie Hurricane, was it Denzel Washington or Will Smith? I don't remember which. They were in prison. The very same situation. They gave away everything that the prison guards could take from them. And during that time in their cell, they were completely free internally. But we're almost never free externally. And you see, when I have challenged and accomplished those three, what happens is I am now positively, emotionally set. Are things perfect? No. But they're all under my control. The reason people work is they want to feel good about the efforts that they put. And we have to create environments within which they can do that. Will everybody fit? No. Some of you have great operations. Is a great operation a great place for everybody to work? No. There are some times that people need to be sent down the road. But we need to give them a chance first. Second question is this. You ever ask yourself, I don't understand this cat. What in the world causes them to do what they do? Now, there are only 5 factors. Now, up here I have the word performance. You can put the word behavior in there. You can put any other word, for that matter, that reflects on why people do what they do. Thoughts, feelings, attitudes, belief systems, or events. I don't know where that T came from. It wasn't there not long ago. Oh, I know where it came from. It belongs up behind the H. I think that script box got too small, didn't it? I don't know how it changed that. Anyway, what I would normally have you do is to go to work in groups of 2 or 3, and I would have you rank order those things based on what you believe the order would need to be to explain people's performance. Don't have time to do that today, so what I'm going to do is to just give you, ask you, if you were to rank order those from most important to least important in predicting the behaviors of your people, which one might you put first? What's most important to you with the people that you're managing? I prefer leading. What's most important in your mind about their performance? Thoughts, feelings, attitudes, belief systems, or events. Attitude. We've been raised with attitude. And I don't want to fly in the face of Norman Vincent Peale and Zig Ziglar and W. Clement Stone and all the great motivators where they say attitude is most important. My question to you is, what is an attitude? What's an attitude? How would you define it? It's a feeling. You see, we use these words every day, and I would suspect that if I gave you a piece of paper and I said, write down the definitions for these 5 words, you'd have great difficulty. Because I make the assumption that my definition and your definition are the same, and the probability is they're not. What's an attitude? It's all 3 of those. They get a little messy, don't they, when we start trying to define them? Well, first of all, a feeling is a biochemical phenomenon that results from a thought. You create a biochemical environment based on how you think. A thought is an electromagnetic phenomenon. It is a mechanism that occurs when an electrical impulse jumps across a synapse, which is the space between two nerve endings. So the thought and the feeling are not the same at all. They are cause and effect, most of the time in the direction from thought to feeling. However, there are some psychologists that say you can do this in reverse. It happens less frequently that way. Well, then, what in the world is a belief system? You're all thinking, I'm not sure I know, so I'm going to keep quiet and hope somebody else answers. A belief system is a truth. It's something you have come to embrace as truth. And in the 60s, we were thinking we were going to challenge that because there were dudes who were stepping off of building roofs thinking they could fly. They found out that's not true, because the truth is that each time my feet come out of bed, I have never yet, in nearly 70 years, had them go to the ceiling. They always go to the floor. That's true. But the question I want to have you think about is, when your people come to work, what's the truth to them? This is one of the greatest outfits I could ever be working for. I love my job. I enjoy doing that aspect of whether it's nursery all the way in through finishing, or whether it's in nutrition, or maybe it's in the medical application of it, or maybe it's something else. Maybe it's marketing or accounting. But they believe that they're doing what their skills have been gifted to allow them to do. And they're having a great time working. I met with a bunch of kids yesterday upstairs, and I was really disappointed. Now, maybe I got an abnormal group. But their eyes were vacant, and their faces were blank, and they weren't even sure. I asked them, why do you get up in the morning? They didn't know. Well, I have to go to school, or I have to do this. I said, no, you don't have to do that. Oh, yeah, I do. I'm going to use my mother's death. My mother's death was an event. It happened in 1961. She was only 53 years old. And I'm going to change one thing about it to illustrate a point in what's important here, and that is that she died, I'm going to say she died at 4 in the afternoon, and I didn't find out till 8 in the evening. It's not true, but I'm going to use it for sake of demonstration. What effect did my mother's death have on me between 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock? None. I'm not trying to insult your intelligence at all. I'm trying to make a point. Had no impact on me at all. At 8 o'clock in the evening, I picked up the phone, and somebody told me my mother was dead. At that point in time, which of the remaining 4 black printed items was first to be affected? Feelings. You almost always get feelings. Bear in mind, a little bit ago I told you that feelings would be a biochemical outcome from a... Yeah, now how long does it take for you to scan your memory bank? Not very long, about a millisecond. You see, at that very same time, or approximately that same time span, that my mother died, my sister had committed suicide, and my wife was diagnosed with cancer. Now, did I feel the same about all 3 of those events? No. You have to decide, how does this feel? You see, what happened when they told me my mother was dead, I had to decide, what does it mean to me to have my mother dead much, much earlier than I had anticipated? You see, what happens when we experience an event, we think immediately. Thousands of thoughts go through our mind in a very short period of time. And well, I'll come back to that in a minute. Once I have thought, what happens now is I feel. I might be angry. I might be sad. I might be happy. I might be neutral. But one thing your sheet doesn't have is the word chemical. The word chemical has to do with the concept that feelings are biochemical, and if you think bad thoughts long enough, you end up in a disease state. 80% of the people in Des Moines today that are being treated because of the way they think, because it's impacted their biochemistry. And it has made them susceptible to possibly some microbe. What happens then is, once I feel, I perform or behave. And in our culture, what happens is we go back and blame the event. It's not my fault. It's the boss's fault. It's the government's fault. It's the governor's fault. It's the pork checkoff's fault. But you see, there's something we don't have here yet. Most of us said that attitude is critically important. I asked you where it came from. You weren't sure. This is where it comes from. If you'll write an arrow between belief system and attitude and put the word reflection on there, when you get out of your pickup at work before you've taken 10 steps, I know what your attitude is because I'm watching you. And some of you carry yourselves with a bounce in your step and you can hardly get to work and you get off and get her done. Others of you, your shoulders are forward and you're kind of sauntering along. Now here's the most important part of the diagram. It's an arrow that's going to go right there. Sometimes life is difficult. But you see, if you have a belief system, which almost always for the people in which it works has a faith base, gives them an appropriate meaning to the events that they experience, and so they respond to them in a positive and effective manner. Watch your people when something happens that is unexpected and may be detrimental to the operation. Watch their faces, watch their eyes, watch their heads. Their heads go down. Their belief system is not effective. It's not working well because what they're doing is focusing on themselves rather than focusing on all of the aspects of the work that they're responsible for. If I had to list these in order, belief system has to be first. Belief and attitude are a unit that you can't separate. Then comes thought, feeling, and lastly, events are the least important because there's almost nothing I can do with most events that I experience. Don't allow something that you can't control to control your life. That's why it has to be fifth. I leave you with this. People tend to be unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. But love them anyway. When you do good, you're going to be accused of false ulterior motives. But do good every day anyway. Honesty and frankness will make you vulnerable, but please be honest and frank with your people every day anyway. The biggest people, the biggest minds can be shot down by the smallest people, the smallest ideas, but think big every day anyway. What you spend an entire lifetime in building can be destroyed in the twinkling of an eye. But go out and build it up again anyway. When you were born, you cried. The world rejoiced because of your birth. Please live the rest of your life in such a fashion as that whenever it is your turn to die, it will be the world that will cry, and you, in fact, will be the one that will rejoice. Go back to your operations and see yourself not as a hog operation, but as a people operation. I don't know if you've seen the recent film, The Bucket List. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It is a perfect example of what I'm saying. Morgan Freeman has a life built on relationships. That's all you're working with is relationships, not with a hog. Although it's important to take care of the hogs. You're dealing with relationships and building people for your employees. Those people are going to come and go. When they leave, are they better people because you have been their leader or not? You see, if they're not better people when they leave than when they came, then your legacy has no value whatsoever. Because you see, when my time comes to die, the legacy that I leave and the legacy that you will leave will be on how you affected, touched, influenced people, not things.